begin by thanking Baisakhi and Deepak ji and Aarti for taking the trouble of coming here all the way from Kolkata. The reason why I got so inspired is because I've been following Baisakhi's Magic 9 for some time, and I was most impressed, and I was really excited that a young woman, our own daughter, our Unicef daughter, would travel the world and would come up with such interesting ideas and with such interesting thoughts, and would actually put it down in the form of a book. Then I saw that Magic 9 was actually sort of made into a theatrical production.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very exciting because I saw a whole lot of young people, taking part in that.
Right.
Then I saw that Baisakhi had started speaking at the British Council, then at the Alliance, and at the Lions Club, and so many places in Kolkata. And I said, well, Deepak, why did you move to Kolkata? You should have been here. Then we could have all participated and seen all these things. So I just sort of appreciated Baisakhi and Deepak for doing this, and it so happened that they said that they would be so happy to come here and to present to all of us. So you can imagine how lucky we are to get this opportunity to have this young and dynamic daughter of Unicef to be amongst us. So I welcome Baisakhi.
Thank you.
And Deepak and Aarti for coming here.
Thank you.
And I think we should start this presentation right away because we may not have that much time. All right.
I just put it. We are just waiting for the mic because it's a big room, so I don't want to shout a lot. So it will be ready. So that's a poster, the event poster. It's designed by an artist from Canada, whose name is Esther Gieringer, and she actually designs a lot of my event posters, and as you can see, it's very artistic and beautiful. So I just wanted to mention her over here. So without further ado, I'm going to start. I hope English is okay, or should I also break into Hindi in between? Yeah, but everybody understands English here, right? Okay, just to mention that at the end of the session, we'll have a question answer session. So I do want to keep some time for that because I know people have a lot of questions, especially when it's an esoteric topic like this. So please keep your questions reserved and write it down. Sometimes what happens is during the presentation, your questions may be answered. So keep your questions in mind or write it down somewhere and we can tackle them at the end, okay? So let me begin. So I'll just quickly run through the content for today's program. So first I'll give a little introduction about myself. I think Geetaji already gave an introduction, so I won't spend so much time on that. And then a true story based on this topic, because we all love stories and we can understand best this magical universe through stories, and even better when it's a true story. I will provide some research and evidence so you know that I'm coming from a scientific perspective, not necessarily anything religious or dharmic or influenced by any kind of belief patterns or traditions. So this is not influenced by any belief pattern or tradition. And to talk about death, to understand death, we need to understand time. Now, time is not how we perceive it to be. So I will explain to you
what exactly is time, and why does it work differently here on earth, and how is it different on the other side, in the other dimension. Then I will go right into the process of death. I have categorized into 3 main stages, which happens to everyone when they die, and we have lots of evidence to know that this happens for sure. I will also talk a little bit about suicide and why people do it and what happens when somebody commits suicide. Then I will talk about parallel lives and past lives, because I think some people wanted to know about karma and what it is really. So that topic would come under past lives. I will talk about the Akashic records, and why do we need to know about death? Why is it important, and why am I here to speak about it? So there are some lessons to learn about death. And lastly, we'll have a question answer session, and I will leave you with some resources. If you are curious, you could do some of your own research. So let me begin. Introduction. So that's me. I'm an author. That's my first book, Magic 9, it's here. I wrote it over a period of 3 years, and when I was writing it, I never knew that it would be a book someday. So it's in a very raw form. While I was traveling the world on student exchange programs, I went to Singapore to do my studies, further studies. I got a scholarship, and after that, I picked up various student exchange programs to live, not just travel, live in different continents, Europe, Africa, South America, Central America, and right now I'm based in North America. So I'm also a performer. I like to dance and act, and I figured out these passions during my travels. I studied computer science, a very boring subject from what I am doing today. So I didn't know that one day I would be standing in front of so many people talking about these topics. So we dive right into this topic of death and dying. So I will begin with a story. Now there are many stories, there are many people who have had very different experiences, but I particularly picked her story because she's an Indian like all of us, and while I'm in India, I think if I give the evidence of an Indian, we can connect more. So Anita Moorjani, her name is, she lives in Hong Kong. I think even now, I'm not sure right now where she lives, but she was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and she refused the ordinary modes of therapy like chemotherapy, radiotherapy and all, because she had lost 2 other friends to chemotherapy, radiotherapy, who even after going through those therapies died. So she said, if I have to die, then why go through that torture? I'd rather die at home. And her case was quite severe. She had a lump the size of lemon, and it first showed up near her collarbone, and then it spread all over her body from the back of her spinal cord until the end of her spine, and all over her chest and stomach and everything. And the lumps were breaking into lesions, bleeding, and it was extremely painful, and they were all carcinogenic tumors. So they were actually entering into her organs, and her organs had started shutting down. And she suffered from this cancer for 4 years until one day the pain was so much that she got a nurse who was serving her at home to inject her with morphine. Now that is some kind of a painkiller, but the nurse accidentally gave her an overdose, which sent her into a coma. So the story starts from here. She was immediately rushed to the hospital, and the doctors, the resident oncologist, actually refused to admit her because she said, why did you bring her here? Basically, she has come here to die. And you know, doctors, they don't like to admit someone who they know that they are going to die. So, and when they checked her and everything, her organs had all started shutting down. So there was no way for her to recover. The story begins when she was in the coma. She was actually able to see all this. She was able to hear all this interaction that was that they were having between the doctor and her family, her husband especially. And not just that, she actually left her body and she went on to the other side. Now, I will explain more about the other side later. Let me first finish the story. So when she was on the other side, she met her dad. Her dad had been dead 10 years before this incident happened. And she was enveloped with a very bright, loving, beautiful light. And it felt like the kind of love that we all seek here on earth, like unconditional love, approval, acceptance. And she was in this beautiful feeling phase when her dad told her that it's not her time yet, that she has to go back. And she, in that moment, could see that her brother was taking a plane and coming to Hong Kong, that her mom was taking a plane and coming to Hong Kong, and the doctors had said maximum 36 hours she would survive, not more than that. Well, she proved the doctors wrong because she was in coma for 30 hours. She took an about turn and came back to life. She woke up, people were surprised, and the experience that she had on the other side gave her the knowledge about her cancer, what caused her cancer, not only that, but also the fact that she had the capacity to heal herself. So she came back within 4 days. 70% to 80% of her cancer was gone. And in 3 weeks, she was out of the hospital. And the doctors could not believe it, because when she went into the coma, the doctor said, even if she comes back from the coma, there is no way she's going to heal from this body. But those doctors were speaking on earthly terms. She was not having an experience on earthly terms. So she came back, she healed her cancer. Then she came out of the hospital and she started writing an anonymous blog. And she was writing about her experiences on the other side, near death, whatever. You know, some people will say the brain created this, some kind of hallucination. A lot of people who are skeptics would say that. But there was a lot of experiences that she had had which couldn't have been proven under a brain hallucination. So she started writing about her experiences in a blog, when her blog was noticed by a famous writer whose name is Wayne Dyer, and they asked her to write a book about her experiences, and if she would do that, they would publish it. So today, Anita Moorjani is still alive, healthy, in full spirit, and she is traveling all over the world, sharing her story and telling people how to live a better life, how not to fall sick, how to take care of yourself, and what is the thought process behind those kind of diseases. So that's more or less her story. I will keep giving more and more insights into her story as I delve deeper into my presentation. So I will present here a very short excerpt of Anita Moorjani's interview that was taken by this guy called Bob Olson. Now Bob Olson, for many years, he's been doing research about death and dying and the afterlife and stuff like that. And he had a chance to interview her, and this was before her book was published. So just a brief about her book. Her book is called Dying to Be Me. So there is, even in the title, there is a message. And how I came to know about her, when I was in Costa Rica, I was living with a Mexican family, and my landlady, she also had terminal cancer. And she also healed herself. She did not go through this coma process. And one day she was reading this book in Spanish, which is called Muero por ser yo. And she called me and she said, hey, look, did you hear about this lady, this great person who has written this book? And I was like, oh, who is she? You know, and she knows that I'm interested in these kind of topics. And then I, did some research, and I heard a few of her talks, and I came to know about her miraculous story, so I love to present her. So quickly I will play this interview.
Author of Answers About the Afterlife and the host of Afterlife TV, a private investigator who began investigating life after death in 1999. Bob now records his interviews with experts, authors, and people who've had extraordinary experiences, so he can share it all with you. Enjoy the show. Welcome to AfterlifeTV.com. I'm Bob Olson. You can find us at AfterlifeTV.com. And today you are not going to want to miss this interview that I'm doing, this conversation that I like to call them, because I honestly believe that if I did this for 20 or 30 more years, this will be among the top interviews that I ever do. The messages, the lessons that you are going to learn from this are amazing. Our guest is Anita Moorjani. Welcome, Anita. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm really honored to be here.
It's my pleasure. And just so everybody knows, you're in Hong Kong, correct?
Yes, that's right. I live in Hong Kong.
And I am just a couple hours outside of Boston, so we got a lot of distance here. It's amazing what technology can allow us nowadays. I love it.
Yeah.
Let's begin by just talking about your story. I'll just let people know ahead of time. This is the story of someone who has had a near-death experience, but with this major twist. In comparison, I could almost say this is not just a mere near-death experience, as if any near-death experience was a mere. This is something that we not only can learn about the afterlife with, but we can learn about ourselves and really what life is all about from this story. So we're going to begin by asking you, Anita, if you could just sort of tell us where this story starts.
The story starts from me being diagnosed with cancer and it getting progressively worse, and I didn't have any confidence in chemotherapy. Also the fact that scientists are still trying to find a cure for cancer, which means basically in medicine there is no cure for cancer. Everybody admits that there's no cure for cancer. So I didn't understand why I had to go the medical route if medicine itself admits there's no cure for cancer. So I decided to try alternatives. But for me, it didn't work, but I gained more understanding about that much later. But my cancer continued to spread, and over a period of 4 years, the cancer had spread throughout my body. I had lymphoma, so it spread from, in fact, all the way from the base of my skull all the way down to my abdomen, like through my chest, under my arms. Originally, when I was diagnosed, it was because I just had a lump over here, and just where my collarbone is. But over a period of 4 years, it spread until my organs shut down. And then I went into a coma, and that's when the near-death experience started.
All right, and when you say these are tumors that are throughout your body, I understand they're fairly large. What in comparison?
Okay, I will just move on with the story. So, I want to mention this lady called Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Now, this story dates back to the World War times, during the Second World War. So, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she's a Swiss, and right from the moment she was born, she had to fight for her life, because she was one of triplets, and she was the smallest baby that was born, and she was kept under intensive care unit for many months for her to recover. So Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she was a doctor, a physician in Switzerland, and during the Second World War, she and there is a doctor called Dr. Raymond Moody. They were one of the pioneers to come out with stories of near-death experiences. I'm sure before that many people did research too, but these people were bold enough to come and write books about it and tell the world about their stories. So what particularly she used to do, she was so passionate about helping people and doing her work that she used to hitchhike to different countries in Europe, especially Germany, Austria, and Poland, all those countries that were affected by Hitler's concentration camps. And post the war, people in the concentration camps who were the survivors, their condition was really, really bad. They looked like skeletons, after being there inside for such a long time. And she went to those camps to give them medical aid. And she noticed something. She saw that especially in the Auschwitz camps, the terminal camps, there were two types of camps. One was where they used to just kill the people, and the other was more like a work camps, where they would make them go do labor work. And of course, if anybody would fall sick or get tired of doing, Hitler would order them to be killed. So people were living in a constant state of fear of death, fear of the unknown. And she noticed that people, just prior to their death, they had painted butterflies on the walls of the concentration camps. And she had been to a few, and she saw that this was the common element. Like, when we are struck with tragedy, when we know that our life is limited, people often become artistic. They start painting, they start making songs, they start writing poems. So she saw these butterflies and she kept wondering, what is the connection? And then she used to also work with children who had terminal ill cancer, leukemia and stuff like that. And often those children would give her insights about the other side. For example, let's say there is a child in ward number 9 and there is a child in ward number 25. So when she would come to, diagnose these children, one of the child would say, the child in ward 27 is dead. How do you know? Microcosm have the same structure. You take a microscope, you look at anything, you will see the same thing that you see in the planets. So this is the beauty of life, of creation, of consciousness. I don't like to call it the universe. I say it's a cosmic consciousness, because consciousness is everywhere. And we are all connected to that consciousness. So we can never cease to exist. We can transform, we can take another life, we can live in another planet, but we always exist. And when you dream, when you sleep, you have a dream. Can you ever tell it's a dream in a dream? No, you can't. Until you wake up into this life, and then you remember, oh, so that was a dream. But no matter what nonsense you see in a dream, while you are dreaming, it always makes perfect sense. This is because your soul is not limited to the body. It often astral travels. It goes, it looks at its other lives, it goes, it sees other pages, it has its own adventure. And when the soul has its adventure in the unlimited universe, your body feels rested. Actually, it is not your body that seeks rest. It is your soul which is so tired to be limited in the body that it needs to sleep and dream. And when it is done, it comes back and you feel rejuvenated. Okay, so I'll go right into the stages of death. I hope I gave enough introduction for you to understand these stages. So the first stage. So the first stage, you actually leave your body. And you can see your body. You go on top of your body and you can look below. You can say, oh, I'm not inside my body anymore. And many people here on earth who don't even know that they are a three-part being, this is the first realization they come to, that I am not my body. Okay, now during life also many people have this experience. It's called an out-of-body experience, and a lot of people imagine that there is a silver cord which is connecting the essence that you are. I won't even call it a soul, I will just say your essence to your body. This silver cord is imaginary, it doesn't really exist. And they say when you die, this cord is cut. Okay, but when you are alive, if you leave your body, it is this cord that brings you back, which happens in our dream state or other out-of-body experiences, or at an accident venue you may have these experiences. Okay, a lot of people, they imagine or they have seen this, that when you leave the body, you go through something like a tunnel, some darkness. There is a dark space, and at the end of the tunnel you can literally see light, and you want to go towards this light. Now again, these are all metaphoric. The darkness is not really a real tunnel, but that is how people describe it. Okay, now while once again let me tell you that time as we see, as we perceive, does not exist. So in the absolute realm, everything happens at the same time, simultaneously. Whereas here on earth, we perceive it sequentially. So these three stages of death that I am explaining to you can happen instantaneously at the same time. However, for me to explain it to you, I have to explain it one after another. So the second stage is where you come to realize that you are not your mind. And how do we realize this? Now what happens is, during our lifetime, we are told lots of stories. We follow religion, we have different belief systems, our parents, our grandfathers, our children, our society, our teachers, our government, they all give us different versions. Our temples, religion, of what might happen. You know, the Muslims believe in jihadi, and if you go on the other side, you will have 30, how many virgins? If Hindus believe if you have done good, you will go to heaven. If you have committed sin, you will go to hell. So at the moment of death, every human will pause and ponder about their lives. And they will think, have I lived a good life? Have I committed sins? Will I be punished? You know, a lot of fear or a lot of confused thoughts may go on in our minds. Now, when you die, as you continue to create in life, you don't stop doing it at death. So this lifetime, this perspective that you have taken in this particular bodies that you are, whatever belief system you are holding, because I said thoughts create our reality. So thoughts have a vibration, they are energy, and they can literally create things. Now, beliefs are very strong thoughts. In fact, beliefs are so automatic that sometimes we don't even think about it. A black cat is crossing my path. I will have a bad day. And guess what? You will have a bad day. Because you believed it so strongly that something bad happens, you will connect with it, because we humans love to connect, to find meaning in every experience. But you know what? When I see a black cat, I think, oh, it's my good luck charm. And that day is my lucky day. Something magical will happen on that day. So as you can see, beliefs are so strong. Now, when you die, you go on the other side, you look at your body and you think, oh my God, I am dead. You have this realization, and immediately, instantly, you start, thinking, oh, I deserve to go to hell, or I deserve to go to heaven. Or let's say you believe in Jesus and you think that when you die, Jesus will come to claim your soul. So you will meet Jesus on the other side, because you have created Jesus, the essence of Jesus, to come and meet you, and you have believed in that. If you don't believe in Jesus, maybe you believe in Krishna. So Krishna will come to you. Who is Krishna? Krishna is an essence, just like us. And who created Krishna? We. We have sent so much thought, energy, so many prayers, so many kirtans, so many this thing, that literally with our thoughts, with our focused thoughts, we have created an entity called Krishna. And we believe in that so much. Our faith will lead us to Krishna. So this is how religions differ, because if you look at it from God's perspective, everyone is equal for that matter. Everyone is a soul, everyone is an essence. But depending on which belief system you are born into, depending on which thought process, which cultural conditioning you have, at death you will also have the remnants, the residue of your mind you will experience. So if you believe that you will go to hell, you will instantly create hell. This is the best thing. Some people say hell is right here on earth. It is because of what we think, because of what we are afraid of, because of our subconscious fears and beliefs and trauma. You will create hell. And if you don't believe in anything, if you are just skeptic, or you are an atheist, you don't even believe in God, you may not even go through this stage. You may just skip this stage, or at this stage you will have no experience. Or you believe in heaven, so you will experience heaven. You may create a beautiful garden with flowers, with angels, with butterflies all around you, with a lovely stream going around, and that is where you will go. Because here on earth, again as I said, energy, when it is dense in the physical life, it takes us some time to manifest, to create something physical. If you look at this room, everything that you see here existing was first born here, right? Before it manifested into physicality. So the same thing applies. On the other side, it does not take time to manifest. It is instant, because we are not limited in the physical body. Here, they have calculated that it takes approximately 17 seconds to create. So let's say you wake up today morning and you think of a butterfly, a beautiful butterfly. You think about it for 17 seconds. I just saw a butterfly over there. So, when you think about it and then you go about your day, you will start seeing butterflies. You may see a painting of a butterfly, you may see a butterfly crossing your path, and you don't see it every day. But you see it today because since morning you've been thinking of a butterfly and it will cross your path. So this is what happens. Now, let's say you continuously think of this butterfly. Every day, every moment you think of this butterfly. You will be flooded with butterflies. Everywhere you go, you will see butterflies. This is what happened in my Magic 9 journey. I was seeing the number 9 everywhere because I had created it in my mind and I had placed it as signposts for me to navigate my destiny. Now, this is all your creation. This is all in your mind. Now, how many times do we think of falling sick? How many times do we think of having an accident? We insure our lives with life insurance policy. Why? Because we think someday in the future, we are going to fall sick, we will get old, and we will need insurance. We will need someone to pay our bills. Each one of us is a powerful creator. When we do that, we have already created a future where we will fall sick and we will need those things. I am not joking. Right now here on earth, we live and survive from a fear consciousness. The Hitler experience was just a reflection of mass consciousness. Because on the other side there is no hell, so even Hitler went to heaven. This might be hard for people to grasp, but anything, let's look at terrorism. Let's look at crime. Everything operates, our institutions, our governments, our education system, our political system, everything operates from a fear-based consciousness. And this is why there is so much fear of everything in our life. Fear of life, fear of falling sick, fear of getting into an accident, fear of dying, the big question mark. But imagine a world where nobody is afraid of death. Nobody. Just like we change our clothes, we change bodies. Do you think crime will exist? Do you think terrorism will exist? No. So how will a new world look when we are not operating from a fear-based consciousness but from a love-based consciousness? It will be a different world. Our consciousness is evolving continuously. We go, and right now, today, there is so much research on this that tomorrow, let's say in 50 years, we will change this fear-based consciousness. There is already a lot of consciousness work going on here on earth. Okay, a very famous quote from the Buddha, what we think, we become. This is what I have been telling you all along. So this tunnel experience can be had at any time, maybe after the first stage or after the second stage. So the second stage where you may experience hell or heaven, meet Krishna, Jesus, whatever, all that happens. So eventually when you leave that and go to the third stage, you come to the realization that I am not my mind. Okay? Now we go to the final stage of death, which has been, many people have had this experience. Stage 3 is the fascinating stage, where you come to the realization that you are not even your soul. So then what are you? Now in this stage what happens, remember I told you this light at the end of the tunnel? So this is where you come and you merge with this light, your essence, and you suddenly become the universe. You become one with all that is, all that exists. And this experience, this is when you know that you are not just a small part of the whole, but you are the whole. God consciousness, Jesus consciousness, whatever, you come here and you have this experience, you merge and you feel eternal bliss, paradise, utopia, nirvana, whatever people have dreamt of, spoken of, here you can have it firsthand. You become, you have this experience, you stay here for a long time, as long as you want to stay. So basically, you experience this unconditional love, this acceptance, and this light, someone may think of it as God. So you become one with God. You were actually never apart from God. You were always a part of God. We were all made in the image and likeness of God.
And it was as though I would be enveloped by this unconditional love, and then again a feeling, like washed over with a feeling that everything is fine, everything's perfect. In the grand tapestry, everything's still gonna unfold perfectly.
Okay, so many people have actually come back to earth after this third stage of death. This is how it has been recorded. Now let me explain this part with a metaphor. This room, okay? Imagine this room has one door. Now you come inside this room and you merge with this light that I have been talking about. This is when every soul, every person is given the choice. Do you want to stay here or do you want to go back to the physical life that you have just left? Hard to grasp, right? We don't think that death can be a choice, but death is indeed a choice that everyone has. And what is the purpose of this choice? We choose our lives. We choose our parents. We choose the soul group that we want to incarnate into. For a particular experience, we come here with an agenda. When we are living that agenda, we will be full of health, full of spirit, full of vitality. When we get afraid, when other people are telling us what to do, when we are not connecting with our own internal guidance system, this is when we can fall sick, we can get out of the path, and we are not reaching our destiny. So you may have cancer like Elizabeth had. She was not on her path. She did not know who she was. Not Elizabeth, Anita Moorjani. And when she was on the other side, she actually saw what caused her cancer, which is a fascinating story. If we have some time at the end of this talk, I will play that part of the interview where you can hear it firsthand from her. So this is where you come and you are given the choice. Do you want to stay here or do you want to go back? Now, nobody is coming there and asking you that question. It is not a question-answer thing. It is a feeling. On the other side, we communicate with our feelings because feelings are the language of our soul. Even now, when you are in deep love or somebody is angry, you don't have to tell them. You can feel the vibrations because that is how emotions speak. Emotions are our internal guidance system. They are constantly telling us if we are on the right path or not. So when you are here, if you have even an iota of a feeling that I am not done, that I feel like I still need to do a little more before I end this life, you will be instantly sent back to your physical life. And you will come back to life a moment before you died. So you actually jumped time. As I explained, let's say you went to page 100. You skipped 10 pages. At 80, you skipped to page 100. You will be sent back to 80 so you can live the rest of your time. Now, this little bit of time can be 5 years, can be 50 years, can be 5 minutes. Every soul has an agenda and it is impossible for us to know who is fulfilling what agenda. So many times you will see comatose patients or patients with near-death experience. Sometimes doctors have said they have died. Many clinical cases have come where, they have died. Doctors have said they are dead and then they came back. So this is what happens. They go to the third stage and they come back. And there is an excerpt of Anita Moorjani, I think it's right after this. Okay, there is also a life review that happens, which is basically you have a quick glimpse of your entire life, not just from your own perspective, but also all the people involved in your life. Let's say you had a very hurtful experience in life. So when you have this life review, it's like a bird's eye view, where you not only see your perspective, where you felt hurt, you also see the perspectives of all the other people who were involved in that incident, and you can see it from their depression or some of them are even suicidal. And a lot of them are committing suicide because they really are lost in this world. Their ancestors, their government, their political system says one thing, and in their heart, they believe in a different truth. And these people are doing their job actually, even by dying, because no death happens in vain. Even through dying, they are always communicating with life, And people who are aware of that death are being taken to a higher consciousness to understand the agenda of that soul. Okay, I won't go very deep into this. Now, when you are in this room, let's say you have decided, I'm done. I don't want to go back. I'm done with this life. I am ready for a new adventure. So this is when this door that you entered this room, this door finally closes. And this is when the process of death is final. Everything that I have explained until now were the preliminary stages of death, are what happens to millions and millions of people who report to have had near-death experiences. So they actually die. Yes, they die. And then they jump time. And then they come back to do a little more of their lives. So they actually live an alternate reality in a parallel time.
They had already taken a lot of tests on my body and tests of my organ function and things like that. So although the doctors had said the organs were already appearing to be failing, and that's why I was dying,
Yeah.
I seemed to be aware. I reached a point where I had a choice of whether I wanted to come back into my life or go on into death. And there's a lot around there which I'll get into, but specifically about the future. I was aware that if I chose to go back into life, that my test results, which had already been taken, the results would show that my organs were starting to function again.
Yeah.
And if I chose not to go back into life, not to go back into my body, the test results would show that my organs had failed. And so basically the diagnosis would be my death was caused by organ failure due to end-stage cancer.
Whoa. Someone must have asked you to make this choice. Who was there in this, what would you call this place? Is it the spirit world? Is it some void? What is it? What's your word for it?
Well, I sort of use the other realm.
The other realm. Okay, I love that. Great. All right, so we're in the other realm. Here you are. Let's just back up a little bit. At first you're alone. You're aware of all these things that are happening. Eventually, some other spiritual being must come into your presence. Who is that? How would you describe this? Tell us about it.
The first spiritual essence that I became aware of was my father, because he had deceased 10 years prior to that. He had passed away. And so it was really comforting to feel his essence. And then even the communication there is very different. It's not, see, people have said to me, is it mind to mind? It's not even mind to mind. It's like you become them. It's like you become one with them, and you just know. It's instant. It's instantaneous. It's not a back and forth communication. So then what I'm doing is I'm now putting words to what it was that was instantly understood.
Yeah, impossible to do, really, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And basically the first thing I understood when I was aware of my father's essence was that it wasn't my time. He wanted me to know that it wasn't my time. But even though it wasn't my time, I still had the choice of whether I wanted to come back into my physical body or go further into the other realm.
So he's the one who gave you that choice.
Mm-hmm. He's the one who gave me that choice.
Okay, I played this interview over here for you to really grasp what I was trying to say, because this is not just Anita Moorjani's story. This is the story of a lot of people, but here of course I am using her story as an example, and these things have also been chronicled by a lot of doctors and psychiatrists who have recorded these experiences. So basically Anita Moorjani says that when she was on the other side, she had the choice to stay back or to come here. Even though her father came and told her it was not her time yet, she could have still chosen to stay dead. And if she had done that, here on earth, her medical reports would show that death due to organ failure. However, since she came back, she chose to come back, her medical reports showed that her organs started functioning again. So this is what actually happens. Things are adjusted in the afterlife. So here on earth, it feels like she never died in the first place. But actually she died, and like I said, she just jumped time. And now she is in an alternate reality. In that life, in that reality, she really died. She is literally living a new life over here. Totally different consciousness from what she was living earlier. So I would really say that she actually is living a different life right now. She is continuing from the page that she left, but now with a new consciousness. So this happens, and again, this interview actually is very long. I'm not showing you the whole thing. At one point, she even says that her life agenda is intimately connected with her husband. And her decision to have come back was once you're on that side, you experience this love, this bliss, you really don't want to come back. A lot of people say that as well. I didn't want to come back, but I was sent back, and I don't like this body. I don't like the pain. So she saw that her agenda was intimately connected with her husband's. And if she had chosen to stay dead, her husband would follow suit very soon. Again, death is not something bad, but that's why she decided to come back, so they could fulfill that agenda together. And that's what she is doing right now. Okay, so now imagine that you are inside this room, the door has closed, you have decided to stay dead, you have not decided to come back. So what happens now? Now imagine this room that you are at, it has 2 more doors. Are we running out of time? No. Okay, so I will go faster. Imagine it has 2 doors, okay? So once you have rejuvenated, refreshed, a lot of people say, I don't want to take birth again. So what actually happens is nobody wants to stay forever in paradise. Because you lose the experience of paradise when you are in paradise. Right, when you are in paradise all the time. So you want a new adventure, a new life. Now, if you exit from the other door, you will take birth into another physical life. However, if you decide to exit from this door, for instance, you may be born into a spiritual life. You may become an angel or a spirit guide or a guardian angel, an archangel. There are many gradations of spirits and essences which exist in the afterlife. And how do we know about them? There are a lot of humans. We come here deliberately, we forget all this knowledge. We forget about our other lives, we forget these things, because if we know these things, we won't be able to function in our physical life here on earth. But there are a lot of people who don't have this filter. So although we are here in a 3-dimensional plane where you can see physical objects, death happens at the 4th dimension, 5th dimension, where you are not in the physical body. So there are a lot of people who can perceive these other dimensions. Mediums and channels, they can even see dead people, communicate with them, and you too. If you are grieving from the loss of someone very close to you, you can also channel them. You can speak with them through a medium, through channels, and you will get evidence. There are evidential mediums who will give you details, who will tell you their names, who will tell you which pocket they used to put their favorite watch in, or which drawer you can find their memories. You know, evidential mediums can give you detailed knowledge about the person who has died. And there is no way for them to know that information. So that itself is a validation that they are actually communicating with your deceased loved one. So, of course, we all know that if you take birth, what happens? Basically, like I gave you the example of the ice becoming steam at death. And now when you condense the vibration of the essence on the other side and make it denser and denser and denser, then it can again get into the vibration of a physical life. So that is the birth process. It is just the opposite of the death process. At death, your vibration increases, so you leave the body. At birth, your vibration decreases, so you can become dense enough to come into the physical body. And that's why you babies, they sleep so much. Why? Because they have just come into the physical world. They are still not orientated to this system, to this world. So they are constantly having their adventures in the spiritual world. Sometimes you will see they are laughing in their sleep. They are probably communicating with an angel. Now many people will say, how can you talk about angels? It's a Christian concept. No, not really. I mean, maybe Christians gave the name angels. Let me not even use the word angels. Let me say an essence that is constantly there to help you, to guide you on your path. If you would only become aware of this essence, you can actually decide to help some physical person in the physical world. That is the job of angels. They help you. Sometimes you will see children, they are, going at places, doing things, and they may be in a dangerous situation. Many times angels will interfere and move or cause the dangerous thing to be away from that child. Even for adults, there are angels. If it is not your time to die, or if that accident is not meant to happen. Sometimes an accident happens, a disease happens because there is a message behind it. There is a purpose behind it. And probably that would take many more lectures for me to explain it to you, but right now I'm just giving you the gist. But if that accident is not meant to happen, it will just be a bother on your life path, angels will come and remove it, because sometimes we in this physical perspective, we may not be able to see an imminent danger. Or at other times what happens, you get an intuition, you may get a premonition. And oftentimes you will see that if you listen to your premonitions, if you listen to your intuitions, your gut feeling that we call, that gut feeling is always right. And when we don't listen to it, we may get into a bad or a negative experience. And later on hindsight, we say, I had a gut feeling about this and I didn't listen to it and something bad happened. So who is giving you that information? It is your own higher self or your future self. Like I said, past, present and future exist simultaneously. Let's say you have two choices in front of you, A and B. Okay, you are about to take the choice B and you have a premonition that it's not going to be good. It's because your future self, because you exist in multiple places at the same time. On all the pages of this book, your future self might be sending you a message, a hint that don't take this path, this was no fun. And if you ignore that intuition and you still go on to it, you will experience the same thing that your future self experienced. But if you listen to it and you make a different choice, then in that moment you jumped reality, you went into an alternate reality and you created a different life experience for you. This is why sometimes fortune tellers, seers, psychics, we say, oh, what he said was totally wrong, it did not happen. No. If they are genuine seers, they are looking at your aura, your energy right now, what a vibrational match you are to, and they are telling you, giving you that information. But in that moment, if you make a different choice from what they told you, let's say they said, okay, you will go to America and you will have this experience. If you don't go to America, you jumped reality and you decided to have a different reality. So we are constantly in a place of choice and we are choosing what experience to make. When somebody makes us aware of something in the future and we don't want that, we can make a different choice to change that future. That doesn't mean that psychic or that seer was wrong. It just means that we are so powerful, we can even create a different reality from what we have been told by even the most powerful psychic or medium. Okay, quickly I will talk about suicide because this is a big problem in today's world. A lot of young people especially are committing suicide. Now again, as I told you, we are continuously having a consciousness battle here on earth. The new ones are trying to replace the old ones are trying to stay in their status quo. So a lot of people are going through a mental turmoil. And this was not the case, let's say 50 years ago or 100 years ago, when we were more into survival consciousness. Even today, survival is a huge problem here on earth, because we still have continents and people who have the survival issue. But a lot of human beings have gone beyond that point, where they are not worried about their survival, where they are dealing with higher and higher levels of consciousness. So this is where, let's say there is someone here on earth who is born into an extreme contrast. Usually people who think of suicide, who even, a normal person may say, I don't even think of it. They may have it as a life path potential, meaning that they are born into such a strong contrast where their consciousness is going to be so different from the reality that they are born into, that many times they may find themselves alone, lonely, depressed, anxious, all those mental disorders that we have. And they may decide to take their own lives and not continue the journey. However, that is at a disadvantage for every soul, because suicide is just like a reset button that we have on our computers. What really happens is that when you are born into a particular body, you actually choose that experience in a particular set of contrasts. So if somebody decides to leave, and then what they will do is immediately they will give themselves another body with the same set of circumstances, same challenges, same experiences, to live that whole thing again, but this time they have to do it from square one. So it's like there is no escape. There is no void dance in this universe. Everywhere you go, you will meet your own creations. And it is no different from a suicide case. Basically, they will just come back. May not be in the same household, but it will be the same set of circumstances, because they themselves will realize that, oh no, what did I just do? I wanted that experience. Why did I come out of it? Okay, let me go back again. So that's what they will do. Or if they actually choose not to come back, they may be on the other side. And spirits also have a lot of gradations, hierarchies like we have here on earth. So they may go into some therapy. It's not really therapy for souls, but they may have they may have to navigate a different set of realities on the other side than a normal death. However, this is the funny part of it, because at some level, since everybody chooses their death, actually every death is a form of suicide, if you look at it. Because everybody who says, no, I don't want to go back to that life, you are taking your life. But then at some point you believe that that journey in that body, in that perspective is over. So a suicide where you are literally, shooting yourself or something, that is like you quit midway. And there is no quitting. So it's different, yeah. So I'll move on. I just want to give you the example, a story. This guy, Eric, in 2009, he was only 20 when he shot himself and died. So he, after dying, he started contacting his family, especially his mom, because his mom was a doctor.
You just brought this on, and I have exactly this here.
Oh wow, so that's a synchronicity. You might have heard of them. Eric was 20 when he took his own life, and then he started communicating with his mom, and his mom is a doctor, and she was a skeptic. She never believed in these things, and he says now to her that one of his missions to have left and then contacting her was to open her to this higher reality. So a lot has been done since then. This is Dr. Elisa Meadows. She is a doctor in the US, quite a good, big, famous doctor. And since her son died, she wrote a book called My Son and the Afterlife. So she started meeting him in her dreams. She started getting signs from him. She started feeling his essence. And a lot of her family members also started having these communications with Eric through dream state and all that. So she decided to communicate with him through mediums and channels. And she wrote about him in this book. You can get this book anywhere, I think, in bookstores, online. And then her son wrote a book called My Life After Death, a memoir from heaven. So he wrote a book from the other side. That sounds really funny, but it's not that he actually sat with a pen and paper and wrote. It's probably through a medium or a channel where he described his life on the other side. Very, very interesting book. There were many points of validation, many points where you can know that this was actually Eric coming through the medium and not just the imaginations of the medium. And it's very interesting book. Again, you can get hold of it, you can read it. Now what they do, mother and son, they do every Thursdays, they have a radio event where they actually communicate with people, normal people who may have questions, who are also dealing with a suicidal son, or who are stuck in life, or who don't know their life purpose. They actually have this communication system going on, and they have a lot of videos on YouTube where Eric addresses different topics about diseases, about war, about terrorism, about Trump, about and they have actually channeled a lot of people and spoken to them, their higher selves. They have also spoken with the terrorists who caused 9/11 attacks and what their mission was, agenda was, 9/11 things. Yeah, it's a bit funny after some time, but like what I would say is that death is very much a part of life. Everybody who takes birth takes the risk of dying. So life itself is a big risk. So when we are here on earth, what are we so afraid of? We all know that one day we are going to die. Are we afraid of an untimely death? But there is nothing called time. So what are we afraid of? If we have this knowledge about death, and if we actually know and interact with people in the universe, if you say, I don't want that, I don't want that, I want to experience forgiveness. I have read about it in books, but I don't know the experience of it. I have the knowledge over here. But knowledge is something that is in the absolute realm. Those angels, they don't have physical experience. So I'm here on earth and I make a pact with you. I say, look, you want to experience forgiveness? Okay, I will do something to hurt you. So you have the opportunity to forgive me. But while I'm hurting you, don't forget that I'm your friend on the other side. So when we were younger, we used to play that game of police and thief. You are the police, I'm the thief. When I'm doing something wrong, you punish me. I think I already told about the importance of understanding death, so we can live this life more fully and more richly. This is a great quote by an author. He is a world-renowned author called Neil Donald Walsh, and he actually wrote a book called Home with God, which is a beautiful description of this whole process of death, where he channeled this information. And this is a quote by him: "You are afraid to die, and you are afraid to live. What a way to exist." And this is what most people here on earth do. We are just existing. We are not really living because we are all afraid of death, the ultimate. So this is a quote by me: "Suspend your limiting beliefs and experience the magical universe." I will move forward. So I think I will end my speech over here. Like I said, there are a lot of magical things that are right here on earth. We just need to believe them to perceive them. In fact, a lot of people who die, they actually try to communicate with us, sometimes through a butterfly. Sometimes a picture of that person would fall in the moment you are thinking of that person. Sometimes a song will be playing which is telling you about the state of being of this person. And if you start noticing these signs and synchronicities, eventually your senses would get sharper and sharper, and you will be able to perceive these things more and more. And I've had really some personal experiences to validate that as well, but I think we have shortage of time, so I will skip that. But this is a quote by me from my book. It says, "I stand on the steps of infinity, coloring the canvas of my reality." So I am the one who is painting my reality from the steps of infinity. And honestly, my reality has infinite possibilities. Another quote by me, these are all actually dance pictures. I became a dancer during the process of writing my book. I had a very intense experience of myself while I was on all these journeys. I was really young, barely out of my teens, when I was experiencing very, very different realities from what most of us would. And I was alone. In Africa, I was living with an African family, buying into their culture, their system. You know, there used to be gang fights outside my house every day. I could have died any day. But I think I lived to tell you these messages. So this quote says, "All of life is an imagination, a grand creation." Another, notice the coincidences, the synchronicities. That's how you know you are in alignment with your destiny. When you have a desire, like the candle had the desire to have an experience of yourself. When you are born in a contrast, let's say you are born in poverty, you have the desire to experience abundance. And because of that desire, you are making choices. You are going towards what brings you joy. And that is how you are navigating destiny. When you are in alignment with this desire in your heart, the universe will help you. Your own higher self will help you through signs, through synchronicities. And you will meet those signs on your path. And that's what happened actually. It's a very interesting book, very intense emotional book as well. So I won't go into the details, but another one, I do have a plan. The plan is to listen to my heart. People ask me, what is your life plan? What are you going to do in the next year? I don't know. I really don't know. If you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Because plans never go according to our will, right? If we plan too much, we actually get tensed. If we go with the flow, we know that we will be guided. Our hearts will guide us. Then it won't be so hard. And we won't have so much resistance on the path of our dreams.
At what point did you
Okay, that is more of
learn?
I will just skip this. Yeah. Question, answer, resources. So I will stop here. There are a few websites. Afterlifetv.com by Bob Olson, this guy who was interviewing Anita Moorjani. He also has compiled an amazing directory. It's called the bestpsychicmediums.com, where he has personally interviewed hundreds and hundreds of mediums and psychics and validated that they are, in fact, good mediums who can help connect with your loved ones, deceased ones, and stuff like that. And if you want to communicate with someone, you can go to that directory and find someone who is here, because I think he has listed them by countries, by professionalism, by speciality, because there are different kinds of mediums also. Some are evidential mediums, some are intuitive mediums, some are just feeling mediums, some are just giving you information. So you can see what speaks to you. And if you are interested, you can channel and speak with anybody who has died. Channelingeric.com, it's a great website, and it's quite fun also because they explain all these concepts through very layman terms, and they have a lot of fun actually. Books by Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, books by Dr. Raymond Moody, Home with God by Neil Donald Walsh, all books of Dr. Brian Weiss for past lives. Dr. Brian Weiss was a great, he's still alive, psychiatrist, a pass out from Yale and Harvard University, a very, very renowned doctor. And you know, he was a skeptic too, and he never believed in all these things until his patients started taking him to his past lives, to their past lives. And he got really curious, and then he did years and years of research, and today he is one of the most famous past life regressionists. He can actually take you to your past lives, because a lot of the times some of our present life symptoms can actually come from a past life. A trauma, maybe, you know, we died from drowning in a past life, and in this life I am always afraid to swim, and I don't know why. Let's say somebody hanged me in a past life. In this life I'm afraid to, I don't like to put anything around my neck, not even shawls. And you don't know where that fear is coming from, but since our souls are eternal, it has all memories, all traumas, and sometimes it might carry over a trauma. This is not karma, this is not punishment, it is just a remembrance of the soul. Okay, Dying to be Me by Anita Moorjani. Again, Anita Moorjani is someone like us. She is not a psychic, she is not a doctor, she is not any hi-fi person, but an ordinary person who has had an extraordinary experience that has changed her life for good. So you can read her book, you can read her struggles, her sacrifices, the false self that she was carrying, where she was always a people pleaser. She was, you know, she knew the higher essence of herself and what led her to that cancer. Very interesting book. Edgar Casey on the Book of Life about Akashic records and stuff. So I will open the floor for some questions if anybody has.
First question, how come your book is not there in the list?
Because my book is not about death. It is about my own life experiences. So this speech is specifically about death and dying, so that's why it's not there.
What's the name of your book?
Magic 9. Again, it's a very magical book, and the number 9 was guiding me, and the story of Magic 9 started on 9 September 2009, and I created it when I was in Africa in 2008. And from then I kept seeing the nines, and in 2009 I found myself in a 9-lettered country called Venezuela, in a 9-lettered city called Maracaibo, and the 9th month, September, has 9 letters in it. 999 was on a Wednesday. Wednesday also has 9 letters in it. In Spanish, the language of Venezuela, Wednesday is miércoles, which also has 9 letters in it. So a lot of synchronicities were happening for this thing to manifest, and I wrote about it actually in this book for 3 years. And I never knew it would become a book until I started receiving signs and synchronicities that told me that I should publish it. Honestly, I was very scared. It was in a very raw form, and I didn't want others to know what was going on in my heart. So I was reluctant to publish it, but I got very strong signs, and I've also written about why I published it and all that. And I believe this book was, for me, my own next step towards my destiny. You know, it was the culmination of my journeys, of my adventures, and in this student exchange programs. And since the book was published, my life changed. I became a speaker, I became a performer, I became an author, and I came to be known as someone different from who I used to be. So this is my book, this is my own picture, and it has like my own story in it, my creations. You may connect with it, you may not, but it is mine.
Very good.
Thank you.
I have something to say to you.
Sure.
It's not a question, but it made me think something as I used to talk with my dad.
Right.
He passed away in 93. I was in Yemen at that time. I couldn't meet him again.
You didn't get a chance to say goodbye, right? Okay.
I was born in 34. Dr. Masood, a Muslim, who he knew well.
Right.
He did this to me. And he said something to him which is something like this. Rai Sahab, aapka beta Safir banega. I do not know what the heck Safir was.
Yeah, I don't know either.
You don't know either.
Right.
It's a Persian Urdu word
Okay.
for ambassador.
Right. Okay. Nice.
Got it?
Right.
Now when you were speaking, I was taking all the notes. Somehow I started thinking of that. Till today, and next week my pension will come. All my living has come from outside.
Right.
That's what Safir means.
Okay.
Got the point?
Wow.
I have worked among the leprosy patients, the refugees, His Holiness's sister, Tibetans, and so on. So when you were talking, and you talked nearly 2 hours, which is amazing.
Thank you.
I timed you 1 hour 50 minutes, 53. It's very rare. But I close by saying, how did Dr. Masood know that this Johnny will earn his livelihood from overseas? Always. I've never had an Indian job. My advice to you, Mr. Modi needs you.
Well, thank you for that. Yes,
Yeah,
question.
it's not a question. Actually, if I don't talk, I know we are running out of the clock time, not the cosmological time.
Right.
Okay. If I don't talk, my agenda goes unfulfilled.
Sure,
That's why.
sure, go ahead.
So it's when I came for this lecture, we were sitting downstairs. So somebody asked, I think ma'am asked me. So as we are aged, it's quite obvious that we develop interest in these all things, death and dying. How come you kind of younger ones are developing interest in
Very
this
good
thing?
question. Actually, I answered this.
Yeah.
I talk about it in most of my lectures. I will tell you. You
Yeah.
finish
So
what you want.
I just replied her that, see, I know that as you are aged, the question of death becomes important to you, and as dying becomes important to you. But for me, death has nothing to do with age and all. So I also got interested in this thing, but that was a kind of lay answer, kind of. But there are two reasons for my interest in this thing, because myself I'm Ramanand, and this is my friend Shilpi Shikadas.
Hi.
We both are from Center for Social Medicine and Community Health from
Okay.
Jawaharlal Nehru University. Both of us are trained in public health and all. My current PhD is on pluralism of yoga, and she is working on witchcraft and witch hunting.
Oh, nice. Occultism.
Occultism. So there is an academic interest in this, because in our center and all, while we talk about this biomedicine,
Yeah.
we always think about it has always set a construct of which is kind of limited by the methodological reductionism.
Right.
Now when we see the Brian Weiss and the all other people who are trained to be doctors, the biomedical doctors, and we can see that the boundaries are blurring, and biomedicine has started engaging with more of a holistic understanding of,
Consciousness,
which is
correct.
kind of which was thought to be a creation of the obscure sciences of the East and all. Now
Right.
it's not the same. Now they are kind of engaging with the different things. So that is the academic interest. We are kind of interested to see how biomedicine is crossing the limits of it and trying to engage. Like we see the new book by Siddhartha Mukherjee, Emperor of All Maladies, and
Right.
the Gene, where we
Right.
can see lot of engagements happening with it. The other thing is that it's a spiritual quest also. So one is academical interest and the other is a spiritual quest. I was born in a family, my grandfather was a celebrated rationalist and atheist of his time.
Right.
And by training, I was trained to be a materialist. But I always had an agenda, which was a spiritual agenda, which I came to realize later. It was a spiritual course that always questioned my rational beliefs and all. So exactly before 5 years, I was reading Patanjali Yoga Sutras of the 3rd chapter, that is Vibhuti Vadam, where Patanjali talks about the different vibhutis, different attributes of the mind and different capacities it can achieve. There is a sutra which is 332, which means third chapter, the Vibhuti Padam, 32 is the verse number. So it talks about Murtha Jyotishi Siddha Darshana, which means if you concentrate on inside the there is a point inside the brain which we call pineal gland nowadays.
Right,
In
right. The
esoteric
third
way.
eye.
Yeah, third eye. You can get a vision of seers and yogis, and you can actually teleview. Then I just closed that book, and my rational mind started questioning me. Oh, you are reading, you are just learn in your learning phase, and you're just into this all kind of obscure things and all. It's just mumbo jumbo and all. And I took a vow, and I'll not read this kind of mumbo jumbo ever in my life. That was the decision I made in that night. The next day, Prakriti actually interfered, and it actually told me, now this is not the case. You have to see this. And it actually helped me to see a kid, as you said, he's an indigo.
Right.
He can actually access the Akashic record just
Nice.
before 5 years. And now also I'm in so touch, and he calls me brother. So he can access the Akashic records, he can talk about your past lives. He's an autistic kid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is
So,
something indigos have.
so
They have
he-
ADHD also,
Yeah.
autism and stuff.
And you
And
can-
just one interruption. People think that autism is a problem, ADHD is a problem, but actually it is a gift. They are just not normal. That doesn't mean they are diseased. I had an indigo friend as well, and recently he died actually, and he started visiting me through butterflies, and I recently even channeled him. I spoke with him and all. It was an amazing experience, and because of him I'm writing my second book right now. It's called Mrit, and it's actually the protagonist in that book actually has that indigo character. Amazing, because ADHD, people think it is attention deficit disorder, but I always explain ADHD as, for example, give me this glass. See, imagine this is a tunnel, okay, and we are traveling, we are a point suspended inside of this tunnel, and we are traveling from birth to death. Now, inside this tunnel, in the walls of the tunnel, there are lots of pictures, murals, and at any given moment, whichever side we look at, whichever picture we look at, that becomes our experience in that moment, right? It is another thing that we ourselves are painting these pictures, but an ordinary average person will move through this time tunnel by looking maximum at 1 or 2 pictures at any given moment. Whereas ADHD people, usually they are traveling circular, like in a spiral they are going. So at one moment they are able to perceive more realities than an average human can. This is why they have the telepathic abilities. So actually they don't have attention deficit, they have attention surplus. They are able to perceive more, but we humans who think of ourselves as doctors and the professionals, we cannot understand them. So we put them on drugs since childhood, Ritalin and all those drugs, and they actually interfere with your brain function. And your potential as you grow up, imagine you are 20-something years old on this drug since childhood. Your brain is severely restricted and limited from what you are capable of. Still these people, even at the age of 25, 30, they become extremely telepathic and psychic, and they are able to, and imagine most of these people are lost. My friend who recently died, he was a school dropout. He by the age of 29, he had 19 businesses. He was a millionaire, and nobody had taught him how to do that business. He didn't even go to college. They usually have more than average IQ, and these are the evolutionary beings that I was talking about. Indigo started coming from the mid-80s. And now in the 2000, children born around that time, the crystals are coming. Now indigos have another characteristic where they have very strong anger energy, where they are continuously angry, throwing tantrums, this and that, because they are not able to function in this old belief system. They resist authority. They cannot, and that's why always get into trouble with authorities. You can, as a parent, you can never tell them do this, do that, do that. You have to treat them as adults, and you have to tell them why you want them to do something and why that is beneficial for them. If you start ordering around, they will make you look like a fool for doing that. You know? Yeah.
I just want to make a point. I mean, again, like him, you know, we've been organizing this and talking about this, and I've been telling everyone to come. One of my friends, you know, like, I mean, she would have loved this had she been here. Unfortunately, she's away from Delhi just now, and she sent this link.
Okay.
This is so uncanny. Scientists found that the soul doesn't die; it goes back to the universe. And this is some, you know, research thing, and it's by some Dr. Stuart Hammeroff and Sir Roger Penrose.
Okay.
So anyway, I mean, you can also read it. I can send you the link.
Sure, she just sent it to you right now?
No, 2 days ago.
Okay,
and
nice.
I said, I mean, like, how uncanny is this? You know, I mean, like...
It's a synchronicity, you see?
It's something that is like, you know, we are supposed to be going into this realm.
Correct.
Yeah?
Correct.
And
correct.
I know that because she reads a lot of Brian Weiss, and she really would have enjoyed.
Right.
And, you know, would have thought about it a lot. You know, she would have had a lot to think about and talk about. And she sent this.
Nice.
So I
very
think
good.
it's a kind of a real synchronicity.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing that, because everybody that is here right now, you know, listening to this speech and all, we are all at a place of vibrational match, you know. That is why we are here in the same room discussing this, because we all have had that curiosity to come here and, you know, delve deeper into these subjects, and I will come back to you soon.
The other point I wanted to make was that are there higher intelligences in the universe?
Yes,
You know,
there are.
This is what we keep talking about.
Right.
And I'm not saying that India is special, and you know, it's not that, but we hear so much of that in all our, you know, whether you want to call them stories, Puranas,
religious,
Itihasa, whatever you want to call it, because we hear about it all the time, you know.
Okay.
And but even if any you know, elementary class student of Hindu philosophy, you know, will know this whole thing about the Jivatma and the Paramatma,
Correct.
you know, and the Brahman.
Right.
And the merging of the Jivatma with the Paramatma, and how that is in fact, and the supreme bliss, which is really not describable.
Okay.
You know, that one experiences. You know, so I think, you know, it's all there. It's all there in whatever philosophy you want to call it, Hindu, because I don't believe there's anything called Hinduism at all.
Right.
I don't believe in that word. You know, whatever you want to call it, Sanatana Dharma, or whatever it was, the belief system of this piece of land, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so that it's not identified as any religion or anything like that. But whatever the belief systems and whatever we have known as knowledge, and whenever they talk about this supreme knowledge, they always talk about going from avidya to vidya.
Right.
You know, from ignorance to knowledge.
To bliss, to knowledge.
Yeah.
That's a really good comment and very good question, and a very viable question too. And I want to comment on it a little bit. Of course, what we are discovering today is not the supreme or the highest evolution of consciousness. There have been civilizations before, like the Atlantis, the Lemurians, you know, those are now gone civilizations, and they had much higher consciousness than we do today. But they got destroyed because of power struggle. You see, black magic, witchcraft, you are saying, you know, it is all actually in a way energy manipulation. And there were a few people in those civilizations who were able to manipulate energy. But they did not do it for the highest good of every civilization. They wanted to capture power, like how we have here in this timeline right now on earth. Everybody is power hungry, power seeker, countries, nations. So this is the cause of destruction. Now, these religions have been formed from some elements of truth. Of course, I totally agree to that, because these civilizations have existed in the past and they still exist at some plane. And every energy, like I said, when it is created, it exists in the astral plane somewhere. Now what happens, religion also has an element of power, where they are trying to tell the society, they are trying to tell people how to live a pious life, how to live without sins and everything. Now, I am not commenting on Hinduism in particular, although Hinduism is, compared to other religions, maybe there is more knowledge because Hinduism believes in reincarnation. Christianity doesn't. For example, Dr. Brian Weiss, when he started to do his research, you know, he was into a Christian family. So in Christianity, there is no concept of reincarnation. So for them, it was harder to grasp than it is for us. For us, right from childhood, we watch on TV about, you know, Punarjanam and stuff like that. Religion has since ages, in some ways, tried to control people by putting in fear, talking about sins, talking about this and that, even though there is some element of truth in that. However, since it has been coming through generations and generations, there are a lot of misinterpretations, and you know, each person interprets it differently given their perspective, given their soul group where they are born. So there are a lot of different interpretations of the same religion. So this thing you are saying, like avidya to vidya, that is correct. We are all, you know, going into evolution. We are all learning about our own higher selves, and when we become aware of it, we will have an experience of it, right? And slowly we will become more aware and more aware. But at some point of time, religion may restrict us because again, they are constantly trying to give us the guidelines. Like there are so many ashrams in India, you know, which will tell you how to meditate or to suppress certain desires that we have, which I wouldn't say is the right way to go through, because when you are suppressing a desire, you are resisting it.
It will only become more.
It will only become more. And I have seen it in the eyes of the sannyasis. I have seen, you know, their you know, desire for something else, and some of them are into those systems by birth. They haven't chosen it. Their parents have put them into it, and they are just following that path. And about higher intelligence, yes, we are being guided not just by some supreme consciousness, but by aliens. There have been so many sightings of aliens, you know. Aliens, I don't know if you've heard of crop circles.
Yes.
A lot, you know, sometimes people say those are manipulated by humans.
Yes.
But humans cannot come to that kind of precision, that kind of huge. Imagine, for those who don't know about crop circles, imagine a huge football ground or even 10 football grounds together. That huge a place, suddenly overnight there is a huge symbol drawn in that huge space, and usually it is crops, and they do not destroy the crops. They will create, you know, in such a way these alien spaceships will land and they will create these marks, and usually they are symbols.
Actually, this crop circle, the most fascinating thing that I've heard, in fact I've seen pictures,
Right.
is the Sri Chakram.
Yeah.
You know the Sri Chakram?
Yeah.
I mean the symbol Sri Chakram, it's
Is it the 2 stars?
No, it's more than 2 stars. It's the Sri
Many
Chakram.
stars together.
Many stars
But
together.
and
Okay.
if you put it in
Triangles.
3 dimension, it is called the Bindu Mandala Vasani, where
Right,
you know
right.
the ultimate power sits, the energy sits,
Right,
you know,
right.
in the form of Lalita. Anyways, I don't want to go into it. I think we're really running out of time.
Sure,
now.
sure.
It's so fascinating.
Thank you. Thank
Anyway, thank you so very much. I think she deserves a really fantastic hand. And as a token of her appreciation, something very small.
Thank
and,
you.
And I hope you like it.
I'm sure I
I brought it because it's a symbol of Vishnu. You know?
Oh,
So,
nice. Thank you.
all
Thank
right.
you very much.
Thank you so much.
So thank you for organizing this.
Not
and,
at all, and I
I
think
had
we
a
should-
great time.
We had, you know, there's so much more to explore.
Right. That's true.
Thank you.
This is all you can learn in a 2-hour.
As a medical person, I'd like to just give you one clue because you are Unicef doctor.
Right.
When you quote some of these examples of cancers automatically going,
Right.
They are written by Western people, we know that.
Right.
I can give you hundreds of such stories.
Right.
But what one need to know is, was the diagnosis correct?
Yeah.
Second,
Yeah.
some of the cancers or any so-called dreadful diseases are also self-limited. The word cancer is a big ambit. It's just like saying all human beings are fools. Not necessarily.
No, see,
So, just,
4 years.
just suggestion.
Yeah.
When you use these examples among the scientists, you are caught on a bad route. If we start discussing at that.
No, okay,
you will
I
be
understand, but she has the medical records
No,
to prove
but
it.
if you hear her words, what she said, when she was quoting, she met her dad, what she said is, what transpired I don't know, but I am putting in my words.
Yeah,
So
medical.
it is
See,
what
yeah.
you put as, see, you may see a scene, you may describe it differently, I will describe it differently, somebody else.
Yeah,
will.
but there is a common truth in it because most people who have near-death experiences talk exactly like this.
I've read
And
it.
also
Like-
cancer, see, 4 years of diagnosis cannot be wrong when her organs are shutting down, when she is having
Because
lumps
when it comes to
everywhere.
self-limiting. For example, 1984, my own elder sister was declared at the 4th stage of cancer, breast, with a lifetime of 5 years. Today it is 2017, 30 years plus. There are certain which we call in science exceptional things. You cannot take exceptional things and
No,
give
no,
it as
this
an
is not
example.
just one story. There are many
All
stories.
such exceptions are given as stories. Tell me from a common.
See, I will tell you common. Let's forget Anita Moorjani. Let's forget that she even had this experience. My landlady in Costa Rica, who told me about this book actually, she first had some tumor in her body wherever, and that was cancerous. She did chemotherapy, everything, radiotherapy and all, and you know, those therapies put in more radiation into your body. And even though she recovered temporarily, when I went to rent, like I was a paying guest at her place for 3 years, she had bone cancer. And doctors, the cancer relapsed and this time it spread all over her body, and doctors had given her 8 months to live. Now this lady, again, she had 2 little kids and she totally gave up on chemotherapy. She didn't want it anymore and she said, if I have to die, I will die the natural death. And then what she did, she started going to a pranic healing class in Costa Rica, and she used to even take me with her over there. And I accompanied her to some of her medical visits to the Hospital of Mexico, which is a very famous big hospital in Costa Rica. And I was aware of her condition when I was there. And then she used to take these vitamin C salines. She got her knowledge from somewhere, and she started taking those vitamin C salines continuously and did her pranic healing. Another thing that she did was she had some kind of a neurotherapist who said everywhere that you have a surgery mark, like stitch mark, the energy is not flowing, like the energy is blocking. So she had like stitch marks because she had cesarean babies. So that doctor who used to be into alternative therapies and all started injecting like little small injection around that stage, so the energy will be opened. And the other thing, the 4th thing that she did, she had some metal fillings in her teeth, which somebody had said, you know, those have some poisonous element, and she got those teeth removed. And within 1 year that I was in her house, she was 100% cancer free. And I saw the records, I used to go with her to the hospital, so many, and this was happening in Costa Rica, whereas Anita Moorjani was happening in Hong Kong. You know, all these things cannot be like all doctors are giving exceptional. This landlady, she is not a writer, she is not famous, so I have not used her story. So you can validate, let me finish, you can validate Anita Moorjani's story, that's why I gave you her story. However, this is happening to people everywhere. I met another friend who was gay in Costa Rica. He had a near-death experience, brain seizures. He had artificial metal things in her brain. When he goes out in the heat, you know, they heat up and he gets like headaches and all, and he had been into a coma, and he had that third stage. He told me, you know, I met Jesus. I came back like that second stage, and they asked me if I want to live on this side or not. And I came back because I decided I still have a little more life to live, and I still have a lot more to love. And this guy was also HIV positive. See, I am not giving you my own, see, through my journeys, I have met millions of people. I have lived in every continent except for Australia and Antarctica for at least 2 years or more. And I have interacted with different belief systems, different people with different diagnoses, and then I meet people from different parts who don't even know this research has gone. But somewhere on my over here, you know, something is written. Whenever people have any kind of strange experiences, they will come and tell me. I've met someone in Venezuela who had like a leg amputated or something, and he had also been through a near-death experience. And he was telling me about his experience, and the funny thing was, before meeting all these people, I had only read books about them. I had read books about Dr. Brian Weiss, I had read Home with God, I had read Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. So I had all this knowledge. But then through my travels, I started meeting these people who were telling me about their experiences. You may be a doctor. Doctors are always looking for proof and this and that. And then here there are doctors. Brian Weiss was a doctor. Dr. Elisa Medus, who never believed in these things, today she is running a whole TV channel on channelingeric.com on about her son, and you know, it is a national hype, and it cannot all be just based on, oh, the diagnosis was not correct. No. I mean, I'm just telling you, see, you have reasons to be skeptic. That is fine.
We are trying to mesmerize
No,
extremes.
No. This is not an see. I have not read any religion.
Our friend said witchcraft and all that. We all.
But I am not talking about witchcraft. Witchcraft exists right here in India. In Africa, black magic exists everywhere.
Let us take as as you were talking about this proof and all. I was talking about a boy, Chandrakant. He's now 13 years old. From my experience, I have seen he can access your mind. He can actually
Get that guy to me.
yeah,
I will go to
no, I'll not.
Let them access my
take-
mind.
Yes,
no, no,
yes,
let-
do that.
let-
Then
one
your
minute.
mind will open.
Okay,
Here
one minute. I'm not. I'll not take him to you. Just arrange a panel of doctors here, right here. I can take him here. You can do any test.
Right.
I am not interested in tests.
No, whatever.
No, you can say if he can read your mind.
Let him read my mind.
Yeah,
That's all.
definitely.
Yeah.
I'm 100%
I think you
sure
need
of it.
to
I can
meet
guarantee
one like that. And
I
I
can guarantee
actually,
that.
see, I had an experience in Africa where someone came into my house and stole a lot of money. And those were the only money I was banking on, my only dollars that I had. And it was on the day of my birthday. There was a party in my house, and one of them came into my room, opened the drawers, took all the dollars that were hiding behind the naira and left. I immediately had an intuition who it was, and actually I found out about the missing money 3 months later. Now this is where the story goes weird. I saw this person in a dream. Even before that, I had an intuition who stole it. Then her friend was a good friend of mine, so I told my friend. And my friend would not believe. She said, there is no way she can take it, blah, blah, blah. And then she said, bye. You know, Africa is a place for black magic. Every TV serial that they have, it is all about black magic and energy manipulation. Okay? I personally am not familiar with black magic. I have not done it, but I am aware of it. Now, what she did, she had a friend who knew a very strong psychic. She said, he can just give you an answer over the phone. So, and just a couple of days before she came to visit me, and I told her this, she had, this friend told her, if you ever have a question, you can ask this psychic. So when I told her this, she contacted her friend and she said, they said, give us all the names of the people who you suspect. And we SMS'd, including my name and her name and all the people who had come to my house. Okay? And we gave them like 25 names. Out of the 25 names, the psychic replied back just one name, and it was this person who I had seen in the dream. And my friend was shocked, but I knew in my heart that it was the right answer. Then what we did, I told her I want to meet this psychic. We made a trip from Abuja, which is the capital of Nigeria, to Lagos, which is like the dirtiest part of the whole world, into the ghettos. You know, the ghettos are like inaccessible. She found someone over there, some ghetto member, who actually directed us inside and inside and inside to go to this psychic. He lived in a square box, in a cardboard box. That was the kind of poverty he was in, okay? And he had a little son who could not even speak. He was like 4 or 5 years old at that time, just starting to speak. So I went to this psychic. I was not worried about the money. I had other questions that I asked him. But my friend was very interested to know all the details that happened during when my money was stolen. And this guy said, talk to my son, he will give a better answer. This son, he picked up a plate, a metal plate in his hand, a plate in which you eat. He looked at this plate and he started telling us every single detail. Where was I at that time? I was in the bathroom. Where was my friend at that time? She had gone to the bank to withdraw some money. What was happening? How did she take the money? And how come we did not find out? Even the physical structure of this girl, like the one who took the money, he said, she is big, she's really fat, and she is white, like whiter skin, because Africans are mostly black. And she had even a whiter skin than I was, this girl. And she was very big and very fat. And he described everything to precision. How will that little child know anything about this girl?
These are some occult sciences we have every
No, it's not even science. This baby has not learned it. He naturally has that ability to see it.
Yes, there are people.
And he was talking in his local language, Yoruba. No, it's not exception. It is becoming the norm today. See, let me tell you, doctor, today you are becoming the exception. Today these people are becoming the norms. Honestly.
Say that again?
Today you are becoming the exception. These people are becoming the norms. Sorry.
If you can get me 1 out of 1,000, I'll bow my head.
No.
There are 1 in a million, yes.
You know, I'm a total non-believer. I challenge everything. I just don't believe in any of this.
Right.
But there are experiences that I've had which I still want to question, and I say why? Because I refuse to believe, but the fact is these things have happened.
Right.
Like when you're talking of mind reading, I don't know, because I just don't believe. I'm a total atheist. But I have gone to somebody who said, write something on a slate. I've written it, and he said what it is. He said, ask 3 questions, and he said, these are the questions you asked in your mind.
Right.
So he said that. After I lost my husband, there were things which were so strange. I said, let me know that he's there, feel something. And there were 2 occasions. One just so happened on my birthday, and one happened on his birthday after he was gone. I don't want to believe. Even today I say there has to be a rational explanation. But it is not there. So I am in a state of conflict, not wanting to believe, but the reality is these things have happened. I would like a rational explanation.
Why do we seek rational explanations? When you fall in love with someone, do you think that is a rational experience? Every physical experience that you have is actually experienced in your mind. Your mind that is non-physical, that is non-rational. So why do we here on earth try to explain everything through logic and reason and rationality? This I think is the exception, where we refuse to acknowledge our own unlimited capacities. That's what I would say. I mean, you are right in your perspective, but maybe today's talk will open you up to these experiences. And one day, yesterday at the airport, when I was flying here, I was at the bookstore browsing, and I picked up this book called Mind Reader. It was by this guy called Leory or something, and I really want to read this book. This guy, he goes to events, to huge groups of people, and he will tell you exactly what is going on in your mind. He has written a book, amazing book. I want to read it. And the guy who endorse this book, Uri Geller. I know a lot about him and what an amazing mind reader he is. So if somebody is able to read your mind, this is like telepathy. Your mind is not localized. You may think of a friend and a few minutes later the friend calls you. I'm sure we have all had these experiences. We all naturally are telepathic, but we have suppressed those capabilities here because our school teaches us science. Our school does not teach us how to develop our intuitions. But today there are new schools opening. Kids are being taught. They are blindfolded and they are being taught to distinguish colors. They are being taught to touch things, to give them something, and they will tell you what is in it. And I can show you videos about that. There are people who are training these things, and let's give it 50 years from now, you will see this not 1 in 1,000, 1 in 100.
Hope we see that day.
Yeah.
See, I have
Okay.
my own son, whom you call as attention deficiency or ADHD, who is 29 years old.
Okay.
I walked the entire life with him. There are these are exceptional people.
No,
we
you should let him do, I mean...
He does whatever he does much better than me.
That's what she said.
That's a
So
different
that's what
issue.
I said. That's what I
The
said.
challenge is not that. Challenge is not that. The issue
Okay,
we're talking
fine.
is-
I really, I'm not here to convince you. I'm just here to
Not even
present
need to
my
convince.
studies.
What we have to think is, there are extremes of people.
No, these are not extremes. These are average people having extraordinary experiences.
You use
And
that word,
I
no
am
problem.
not using any extreme examples.
No,
Sorry.
these are extraordinary itself is extreme.
Just close it.
But
Yeah, it's fine.
They're
I
there.
mean,
You
again,
take them as they are.
see, you are the exception in this room because you are the only one who doesn't believe. Everybody, even the non-believer,
I think
believes.
you can finish by saying agree to disagree.
everyone can
Yeah,
have
let
their
us-
own-
Agree to
everyone
disagree.
can have their own-
And thank you for your perspective. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You are
Really
welcome.
enjoyed the session. Yes, some of the things really, you realize
Right, right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You are.
So Geeta ji, thank you very much.
Excellent. Very well.
Thank you, Mr. Saha.
Actually, I invite you to meet the guy.
The mind reader?
Actually, he is, see, when I
Stay up.
Right now
Just
we are
stay in
at
phase
this
3
hotel
now.
with the night.
Where